Like there is a practical side to life. So it may not be optimal to kind of, end the relationship or quit the job, but it might be practical to start to kind of see how you can move from where you are to something that's going to feel more aligned, and then kind of make a plan, make a bit of a pathway of how you're going to do that.
Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality. My name is Kat. If you're new here, I'm a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. If you are returning, thank you so much. We appreciate you. I am joined today by Catherine, who's a sacred architect and channeler. Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a delight to be here. So it's lovely to
Awesome.
kind of enter into conversation with you.
Absolutely. Can you just jump in and let people know a little bit about yourself, about your journey, how you got to be doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a sacred architect, a channel, and a scribe. Uh, which just to kind of clarify a little bit what that looks like and what that means is that I'm working with what we call high energies, but energies that are directly from source consciousness, which we often see in terms of light beings. The light being that I connect most strongly with, or first connected with in this way, is Thoth, who is best known as an Egyptian deity. And so that energy of consciousness is very much about infinite wisdom. I channel information and I channel frequency to support individuals to step into their authentic self and what we sometimes refer to as the authentic multidimensional self. So stepping into your authentic multidimensional self means kind of reclaiming maybe some of the cosmic lineages, the divine aspect of yourself, and really having that be the thing that is the lead player in your life on earth. And it's so that individuals like your community and individuals who might be listening, that you can have a life that really feels good, a life that's enriching, that's nourishing, that feels and looks like an expression of themselves. So the first place is kind of finding out who you are and anchoring that in, and then kind of taking action to create the life that actually does feel like you. So that's what I do as such. That's what my business is calibrated to.
It's an incredible kind of a mission to have here. One of the things that is so hard for people is to find what part, what path, what activity, which way to go that actually feels aligned and good and nourishing. The 3D world will pull you in so many different career paths or different ways, and it's easy to get bogged down in like fear or worry or financial concerns, all of those 3D concerns, and get yourself on a path that just feels completely out of sync with who you are, and sort of end up feeling trapped there for financial reasons. So helping people out with that, I think, is a really powerful and beautiful mission, especially in the modern world where everything can feel so, there's so many more options out there now than there were previously, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. And I think when we find our unique path, kind of through finding ourselves, we feel a lot better. We have a lot more energy. Um, and we also start to attract the things that are actually going to work for us and nourish us. So it becomes less of an effort to find the thing. Because we're being more ourselves, those things naturally show up because of the vibration that we're. And it's not that we raise our frequency to be that vibration, it's that we actually are vibrating at our frequency, we're being ourselves. And then that naturally attracts that which is actually aligned for us to do and to experience.
How do you begin sort of looking for that feeling or that connection? How does one begin a journey of looking to find their authentic vibration?
I think the first step is awareness, is feeling like you feel like, I think that's a really good, like you mentioned feeling trapped. You can end up feeling trapped. You've followed a career path, you've done the things that kind of supposedly were going to bring you joy and happiness. And at some point, you might find, oh, actually, I don't feel happy. This isn't bringing me joy. This doesn't fit who I am. And so I think the first step is awareness. And then another way to kind of garner that awareness, because sometimes we can also go into a kind of phase of, well, hang on, maybe I'm not right. Maybe this isn't actually, maybe I am supposed to be doing this for whatever reason. And so one way to kind of just have a little kind of snapshot check is to reflect back on what it is that you really enjoyed as a child, or what kind of really sparked your interest, whether it was a smell or a taste or an experience or animals or what or you had a keen interest in. I remember my son had a keen interest in motorbikes when he was 2. Something that kind of really kind of just ignited your fire at that age or a young age, and just kind of track, is that still like, is your path, does that match?
I think that's 100% a valid way to look into it, because like when we're kids, we have less restrictions, like mental restrictions on our imagination. So
Hmm.
we really are just kind of free to imagine being whatever we want to be, whatever feels exciting. And, over time, we kind of get socialized that that's not realistic and we end up on a different track. But those things that we imagined when we were sort of free and freewheeling and imagining whatever made us happy, there may be like pathways to things in that feeling. So I think that's 100% a great place to start. And maybe you can help me out. I think there may be it may still be something that you feel is unattainable. Like for me, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot or an astronaut. Like I thought Top Gun was so cool. I was gonna be cooler than Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise ain't got nothing on me. Like all of that type of stuff, right? And so I feel like as my adult self, if I was looking back on something like that, it might be that maybe being a fighter pilot is at this point not something I'm going to go back and do.
Yeah.
But are there ways to channel that same sort of energy, like to get at the root of what the energy of that was?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think like using introspection and contemplation here is really great. And even asking
Mhm.
for reflection from friends. So, so some of the energy around being a fighter pilot is, well, from what I can see, is like exploration, adventure, going beyond limits,
Mhm.
exploring the unknown, being courageous. Um, those are all kind of like um, in there in that experience, I think. And there probably are others that you can name as well, more easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
I'm
so,
just using myself as an example
yeah,
of
it's
like,
great. Yeah, the energy of that is then translatable into, you know, finding something that is exploratory, that is expansive, that is exciting, that's on the edge of things. It's all of that's carrying that energy forward into something that makes sense now. Because yes, it may not make sense to do that kind of thing that you felt like you wanted to do when you were 2, like to be a
Mhm.
firefighter or a astronaut. But the energy behind it, is the information that you can work with to see how that can be expressed now in your life.
That's a powerful recognition, like recognizing for people. Especially, I think too, like the things that we imagine when we're kids, it may just be like the expression of an energy, like we were just imagining it in the way that we could at the time. Do you feel like it can also help like illuminate parts on your life path that maybe weren't making sense previously?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I think it can. I think it can. And so as we grow up, we kind of we inherently pick up kind of cultural and family cultural kind of beliefs and ways of being, and things that maybe don't fit us, maybe do serve us, and they may not serve us. And some of that childhood stuff can get squashed. It can either get squashed or it can actually be really nurtured. Like, with uh, some parents have that extraordinary ability to witness and see that spark within the child and find a way that they can actually creatively express it. Um,
That I think that's a wonderful point to make, both in that being able to recognize how maybe some things got socialized out of ourselves at a young age, but I think it's also so many people who are parents are looking for ways to break those cycles, right? To break those family cycles and find ways to recognize and nurture things in their own children in a way that didn't happen for them.
yeah.
What are some of the things that you might look for in children and ways to nurture them into feeling comfortable expressing that energy.
That's a beautiful question. Looking for that thing that your child is really passionate about, even though it might feel a bit odd. So I remember, like, just to use my son as an example again, like his love for motorbikes. As a parent, I remember he was my first child, so I had the time to do it. Was just allowing him to spend time with motorbikes, like just allowing him to stand there and gaze at them and be awestruck by them, and just kind of witnessing his love for it and being excited with him for that which he was excited about and allowing him to explore that passion. It's like whatever it is that your child seems to be really interested in, even though it may not make sense to you, to allow them to have the opportunity and the space to explore it and to express it and be delighted by it. Maybe they love to dance and sing when they were really little. So then you can start to think, okay, maybe they would really enjoy singing classes or dance classes. Um, so you can start to just kind of notice and witness and reflect back to the child what it is that they are excited about and get excited with them about it. And then find ways that they can express it in a way that is socially acceptable or that does have some framework and structure around it so that they can then develop that within themselves in a way that they can then utilize it as they grow older in a way that's going to be kind of still within the framework of living life. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think that again, that's a powerful thing to put out there, especially for parents. Because I know personally, like my kind of desires sort of and my expression sort of lended itself towards climbing out my window at night, running around exploring things, not coming home when I was supposed to. I just had an adventurous spirit. And so a lot of that for my parents was no, 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 no. Like that was not acceptable behavior. So it really got punished and stepped on where there might have been ways to channel that into some activity that has the same adventurous feeling, maybe camp or hiking or something of that it might you might be able to take even things that seem like unacceptable behaviors and take the essence of that energy and find like a different way to let that be okay or express itself in a safe way.
That's a beautiful example because I think there are, many children who are adventurous and who are exploring things. And so if it's kind of out of your comfort zone to allow them to be adventurous in that way, maybe in a very physical way, then there will be opportunities that you can find to allow your child to do it with other adults who may feel kind of more um, skilled in that area. Um, yeah, and certainly an adventurous child, I think allowing them to climb in safe environments is a really great way to channel that. Hiking, um, yeah. And then, there's the children that might be really, really interested in crystals. Let them choose their own crystals, let them have their own crystals.
Yeah, absolutely. It can express itself in so many different ways. And I
Yeah.
think that's maybe it's a like a healing thing too, like recognizing it in your own children or even in just children that are around you if you don't have children, seeing that same kind of energy. Maybe it helps to recognize some parts of it in yourself as well. Like what things were really kind of punished or stepped on that, maybe they didn't need maybe it wasn't necessarily a negative thing, it just needed to be channeled into more of a positive outlet.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So it also, I mean, being a parent is a great way to learn about ourselves. So if we see something in our child that is like feels threatening to us, that it is worth examining what that is about inside ourselves.
Yeah.
And if maybe we had a similar experience. Um, and then how do we find a way to allow our children to have the experience in a way that's going to be nourishing as opposed to restrictive.
Yeah, I definitely feel like as a whole, as a collective, people are moving away from like what I kind of interpret as fear parenting,
Mm.
where everything is protecting them from things that I'm afraid of.
It is a big awareness piece, and it's a huge, huge subject and topic on its own.
what would you like, what advice, what would you say for somebody who feels like they're fully like called in a different direction, or and just isn't sure how to take steps for change? Like, I feel like we can know that we should be like pursuing something or doing something else, but then the kind of the trappings of life, like everything is, things are settled, life is already set up, certain things are already in play, and knowing how to shift. How do you begin to actually shift into following a different path? It can feel, I think, destabilizing for people.
Yeah, there seem to be two fundamental ways of doing it, and it really depends on what suits you. One way is to just slowly shift things. So find what, if we're talking about career, and the career path doesn't feel aligned anymore, first is insight, second is kind of, discovering what does, or what the kind of the themes around what it is that is really going to ignite your fire. Then research, start looking around and finding what was going to, what's out there that's going to be a better expression for you. Talking to people, having conversations, gather information. Um, the next piece that I think is essential is kind of self work, what I could call self work, which is shifting any paradigms of consciousness that you have that you're kind of unconsciously living by. So that can be shifted, and there's all sorts of tools out there to support one to become aware of them and to shift them.
Mm,
Um, and then the next piece is, once you've started to kind of gather information and started to get a greater sense of what it is that you would prefer, it then starts to become choices. Like, yes, we have practical, like there is a practical side to life. So it may not be optimal to kind of, end the relationship or quit the job, but it might be practical to start to kind of see how you can move from where you are, either in a relationship, say, or a career, to to something that's going to feel more aligned, and then kind of make a plan, make a bit of a pathway of how you're going to do that, or how it might look, or how it might unfold. And again, along the way, it's kind of like you're quite likely going to hit pieces of yourself that are going to be resistant to it, or belief systems that are going to crop up that you go, oh, okay, so, let's look at that, let's unpack that, maybe let's shift it. And as you move, it'll get easier and easier and easier. So yeah, I think that's one trajectory.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then there's another trajectory where you decide that actually what's right for me is to put the brakes on everything, complete the relationship, uh, and spend some time where you are just really nourishing yourself, really looking after yourself, doing kind of, again, I do think self work was really helpful if you're doing it this way, where you spend time just really kind of clearing stuff and activating yourself and kind of bringing yourself more in line with who you truly are. And from that place, then start to look at what it is that you want to step into. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's definitely, I think it definitely depends on people's, again, individual personalities. Some people will feel more comfortable doing things one way, and some people the other way works better.
yeah,
Do you think it can be sometimes as simple as following a thought process, following a hobby, maybe taking something up as, just
yeah,
sort of as you start to follow a path, more things begin to unfold along that path. It just starts, like, law of attraction kicks in and just starts, the path begins to unfold before you as you start to engage with it a little bit too.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, engaging in a hobby or a passion is a great way for that path to unfold. It's really, yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's a
and that,
really, really good point. Yeah,
it makes it a little bit more comfortable. We don't have to uproot or shift an entire your entire life. We can just start following the fun and good feelings as a hobby or a, a
yeah,
part-time pursuit.
yeah, absolutely.
How much do you think creativity in
Oh,
general in various outlets like plays into feelings of satisfaction, or do you feel like tapping into those parts of yourself really helps explore self and all of these kind of pathways?
Well, I 100% do.
Mm,
I think creativity is really key. It's really key. It's an extraordinary resource that we all have. Like every
yeah,
individual on this planet is creative. Like we are creative beings. So we create our reality. We create everything in our lives.
yeah,
Um, and tapping into that creativity consciously, allowing that creativity to develop and to flower, for me is an extraordinary gift to being out to our evolution and evolving at a rate that's quite expansive and quite quick.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I was asking because I feel like it's like super key to tap into that unfolding like imagination and creativity is for, and I mean this is just my perspective, is like kind of the birthplace of what you're creating here. Like your the creation starts in our own minds and with what we're able to imagine and sort of put together. And
Mm.
I feel like having an outlet for that, whatever it is, it's like energetically letting some of that out, into letting that vibration come out and sort of unleashing it a little bit. Do you feel like, again, even people who don't, I think creativity gets kind of boxed into this like thought process of, it's like, oh, you're an artist or you're a writer, or those kinds of things, like it kind of gets put in an artistic box a little bit. Do you think that there are ways for people who don't necessarily like draw or write to express creativity differently?
Yeah, it's another really good question. Yeah, I agree. It has been put into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And people I love art and writing, and I completely think it's an extraordinary expression
Mm-hmm.
of the creative force, however however they're choosing to use that. Um, if an individual you feel like, oh, I'm not creative, like I can't write, I can't draw, I can't sing, can't play an
Yeah.
instrument, you are creative. Like every single person is creative on the planet. And a way to start to unlock some of that is, first of all, kind of releasing any of the inhibitions that you might have, or any of the kind of perceptions around what something should look like, or what it is that, or be like, that is creative. Like walking in nature is a creative act, because you are allowing yourself to be present to that which is naturally unfolding in your environment. It's such a big topic. Um,
Yeah, it really is. And
yeah,
for me,
yeah,
I kind of noticed that a lot of people who really feel like they're not creative have a definition of creativity that involves like the arts, right? But I think that there's a lot of things like mechanical stuff. If you like to build and tinker with things, that's very creative. I think people who are even more logically minded, people who like to sort through facts and then put things together and look from a broader perspective, that's a very creative activity. And so I think there's a lot of different ways to that creativity comes through that maybe people don't recognize is their expression of creativity.
well, what I'm also hearing from the guides is, like, when the heart is present in anything you're doing, then the creativity is flowing. And creativity is really when things are flowing. Like when you feel like you're in your zone, you're kind of just you're in the zone basically with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And the hands are an extension of the heart. Um, yeah, and it could be, you could even be just walking. Then your creative impulse is flowing. It's when the mind starts to restrict kind of the natural impulses that you have to do and to be. That's when the kind of flow gets restricted, and that's when your
Yeah.
creative genius is kind of locked out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm almost getting like this sense of, I don't like atrophy or something, like when you're like habits becoming like solidified to where you drive the same direction to work every day, or you go to you do this because this is what you do at the same time every day. It's sort of, and you're not able to follow the impulse to turn left instead of right, or walk a different trail today, like when we kind of are sort of acting out of, habitual patterns rather than letting yourself follow the impulses to do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think for those who might feel they're in that place, like a hobby, like you suggested earlier, is I think a really good starting place for that. Even taking a pen and paper and doodling, kind of allowing the flow to go in a way where you're not going to. There's no judgment. Like it's not. You can't really judge a doodle. You go for a walk in nature, and just allow yourself to walk kind of in a different route, or where you kind of just naturally feel drawn to stop and look at a stone, spend some time just kind of being with something in a way and delighting in it, and taking the time to really take in the energy of that object and allow yourself to have a response to the energy or the response to the visual kind of element of what you're experiencing. All of that starts to stimulate the creativity that's naturally inside you, and unlocks
Yeah.
the mind from overdoing or being over present.
Yeah. And it brings up another thought. How much do you think overstimulation of other things actually plays into sort of the restrictive feeling? I feel like a lot of people, and I've heard this feedback from a lot of people, like a lot of people think meditation is boring, or that just taking a walk is boring. It's not interesting. And I think a lot of doom scrolling, a lot of just so many things to watch, so many things to do, so many things interactive. Like, how do we begin to reclaim our time for ourselves and step back from the constant stimulation of outside things? Like, how do we re-engage and find ourselves interesting again?
It's another beautiful question. It's a really beautiful question. I mean, there is a reasonable amount of research now showing that the kind of constant stimulation of things like phones and computers, it gives us a bit of a quick high, but it doesn't really nourish us. First of all, it's recognizing that. Then really, it's about breaking a habit. Like you kind of just let go of that. And so then there are lots and lots of ways to do that. Kind of limit the amount of time that you scroll, put a timer on. Put the phone away when you're having social interaction, because again, there's kind of research around that when you have the phone present, it is, even if it's just beside you, it is having a quite a big impact on your attention and on your kind of ability to be present to the person that you're with. So when you're in social interactions, put your phone in your bag, don't have it out, turn it off. So just find ways to start to have less of that in your life. And yes, it really does impact our attention span. It impacts our ability to be present to another. It impacts our ability to be present to ourselves. And we're getting dopamine hits all the time. You're just getting a constant dopamine hit from it. And that is not helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was really helpful for me too, because I noticed, and this is just something I noticed about myself, so it doesn't necessarily have to apply to everybody, but I tended to get lost in my phone when I was actually trying to avoid having to think about things in my life. So the scrolling on the phone or wanting to involve myself in someone else's drama or something else that was going on was kind of like an avoidance thing. And it really helped me to just pick something to have in my hand. So I started crocheting. I make like scarves and hats for passing out to cold people, because just having something else in my hand that I was doing that felt purpose driven actually kept the phone out of my hand. So that was like a practical step I could do to make sure that my hands were doing something else besides grabbing my phone. I think it's a sneaky little addiction that creeps up on people and happens. You're sucked into it before you realize it's happened.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I love the fact that you found something to do with your hands, and crochet being the thing that you found. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, having an alternative is really helpful. Yeah, even if it's a pen in your hand and a piece of paper where you just kind of like leaving your hand.
Yeah,
that
that
thing.
kind of came up in my mind earlier when you were saying about doodling as sort of like, something I think really journaling was that for me.
Mm,
Like because it's just kind of a free throw of, whatever comes to mind, whatever my day was, whatever things were happening and it's something to do with your hand to be writing stuff out. So that
yeah.
too also really helped me journaling out stuff.
Yeah, I think journaling is a great way. It's a great way to clear your mind. It's a great way to reflect on on things that have happened. Great way to kind of just process feelings, and as you kind of write
Mhm.
them down, it's one way to process them, process thought processes. Yeah, it's beautiful. And the other thing that I'm also kind of recognizing a number of things is that when you talked about crocheting, it was purpose driven. So you also had like a why to it that actually had
Mhm.
a deeper purpose, which is, it's such a beautiful kind of, it has so much in it that I think that you did. Yeah, a real,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, that was like I knew I needed something to do with my hands, but
yeah,
if I don't have like if there's no reason I'm doing it, so I was kind of like, but what am I crocheting? So I was like, you know what? I can just make scarves, hats, basic stuff. Having a purpose behind why I was doing it actually helped like solidify a different habit. There was a reason I was doing it.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's so key. It's so key to so much of what we do is if we really know the deeper reason behind it, or we have a purpose behind it, or a why behind it, then that really supports us to follow through. And yeah, that's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you feel like, when you do your channeling and the messages that you get through with the energies that you work with, what messages do you think are the most impactful or something that people just really could use to hear right now? What would you like to share from your insights with that would be helpful for everybody?
Yes, there's a lot of messages that come through, a few constant ones, and that I think are really helpful. One is like, be yourself. The other is love, although it can be a bit cliche, sound a bit cliched, love yourself. And that
Mhm.
means, in practical terms, listen to what it is that you require, be willing to ask for it or willing to find a way to receive it, whether you give it to yourself or whether you receive it from another or you receive it from the divine. Just be willing to really nourish yourself, look after yourself, and know what you require, and to kind of work towards actually receiving it. And then the other big message that's been coming through lately, because we know that there's a lot happening on the Earth star, you don't need to don't put your head in the sand and kind of not be aware or concerned, but find balance. Know that it's all happening for a reason, and know that that reason is divinely inspired, and also know that the way in which you can support it, and there may be other ways that you are supporting, but also one of the ways you can support is to focus on the positive things that are happening in your life or in the world. See the good as well as the more challenging, and also know that the challenging, like the fires in LA, are there to support the cleansing process of the earth. And the more that you can not get caught into the drama of it, and know that that it's purposeful, and also see the goodness that's around through that process, or the goodness that's around in your community or other areas of the world, like what is happening that is actually really supporting the evolution of the Earth star. That will bring balance to you as an individual, to your emotional field, and that will support balancing out that which is already happening on the Earth star in a way that's going to support a timeline that is kind of raising the vibration of yourself and the Earth star. And that's a timeline that you will feel nourished by.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful message. There is a different way to look at things. And along those lines, because we were talking about the doom scrolling and the internet and all this other stuff, I would like to express how grateful I am to the internet that I am able to talk to you, who is a person that without the internet I may not even have been able to connect with. We would be having this conversation right now. So there are ways in which this technology can be a beautiful tool for connecting and sharing energy across distances that we've never been able to do before. It can be a beautiful blessing. I'm super grateful for that. that. I'm super grateful for you for being here and sharing your insights. Do you want to shout yourself out, tell people where they can find you, tell people where your website is?
Sure. Yeah, and echoing the gratitude, grateful to be here and grateful for the internet for supplying us with this, and the technology angels who do all that extraordinary work to supply us with these platforms. My website is divinetemple.net. That's divinetemple.net. And you can reach me by email at Catherine@divinetemple.net. That's Catherine@divinetemple.net.
Perfect. And I will put all those links in the description for people too, so it's easy to find you and connect. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, and I appreciate the work that you do in the world. Thank you guys so much for being here, for participating in the conversation, for letting things flow into your energy as well. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Help push the energy out to other people. And we will see you guys next time on Spirituality.